from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Coming up on AgDay. Celebrating the end of the school year with a popular tradition. Rivers continue to rise as the rain and severe weather keeps coming. When will it end?
And a lot of fields just won't be able to be planted this year.
AgDay brings you team coverage on what's become No Plant 19 for many.
AgDay, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado, the strongest, most advanced Silverado ever.
Good morning, I'm Clint Griffiths. After days of double-digit gains, some grain markets easing back Wednesday as new forecasts indicate a drier stretch of weather. Even so, wet weather continues to bring flooding and historically slow planting progress to farm country. Take a look at this map. These are the top 18 corn-producing states. USDA says just 58% of the crop is planted, the 5-year average 90%. Last year, Illinois was all but done. This year, just 35% of the state's corn is in the ground. Indiana only has a fifth of its corn planted. While nearby corn futures may be trading around their highest level in 3 years, farmers with unplanted fields are trying to sort out how to take advantage, including dealing with futures contracts that may be booked but won't get filled.
I mean, my biggest thing is if there's a problem, face it sooner than later. It may not be the best approach that you want to take, but obviously, no one knows what this thing's going to look like in 3 to 6 months. And so you just have to make the best decisions based on what you know right now with what experience and what situation you're facing at this point.
Soybeans seeing double-digit gains again Wednesday as planting delays for that crop start to garner the market's attention. And it's not over yet in the Midwest and Plains, with more rain on Wednesday causing rivers to continue to swell to record levels in parts of Arkansas and Oklahoma. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen kicks off our team coverage. Cindy, you have some good news in your forecast for producers who've been waiting for weeks to get out in their fields.
Well, at least a little bit of good news in the form of at least some drier weather in the short term. But even if you can't get out into your fields because they're just still too wet, even after a couple of days of drier weather, at least you get a chance for the water to go down a little bit. I'm going to show you two different models. This is the ECMWF model, and notice I've got it kind of focused on the plains states, and you can see that that model keeps most areas, maybe not all, but most areas on the dry side as we head through your Thursday and on into Friday. Now, Texas, you're going to have some wet weather as well. Some models hinting at maybe more western Oklahoma and Kansas, and then we'll have another front coming into the northern plains on Friday. This is the GFS model, and it's fairly similar as we see a lot, but not all of the plains getting some drier weather in the next couple of days before that front starts to come back down in from Canada. All right, let's take a look at our wind forecast as we head through the day today. We're going to be seeing those winds partially in the plains, but nothing super strong out there today. We'll see the winds picking up a little bit in the east, but notice down in southwestern Texas, we'll see those picking up, and that's going to last into tonight as well. As we get into Friday, that second front's going to start coming down into the northern plains, and you'll see those winds pick up there and in the upper Midwest as well. I'll have your national forecast coming up in just a little bit. Clinton?
All of that rain and snow melt in the Midwest and the plains is continuing to push south, especially along the Mississippi River. In Holly Bluff, Mississippi, farmers continue to see fields sit underwater. The Mississippi's Delta region is now in month 4 of an epic flood. Residents are struggling to save their homes, and farmers now realizing they won't plant an acre this year. North of Vicksburg, Mississippi, nobody knows for sure when the water will recede. Residents say it's the worst flood they've seen since 1973. Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant going even further, likening it to the storied flood of 1927. Now the water is trapped inside levees by a floodgate, protecting the region from even worse flooding by a swollen Mississippi River.
This is a seep hole through a levee that I have to protect me from the backwater. And this is it just developed a couple of days ago because of the duration of this flood water.
This year I have planned on planting corn, and I did not get a chance to do so because the water started rising back in February, and we did not get an opportunity. I got the land ready, but I didn't get a chance to get it planted before the water started rising back in February.
Residents say water is piling up with nowhere to go because a planned pumping station was vetoed as harmful to the region's wetlands. USDA says about 65% of the state's soybeans and cotton are planted. That's about 20 points behind normal. The high water on the Mississippi is also causing major issues for farmers in Louisiana. It may cause thousands of acres to go unplanted this year. LSU Ag Center reporter Craig Gautreaux has an update from Point Capee Parish near Baton Rouge.
The Mississippi River has been high nearly all of 2019. It's causing major problems for farmers who grow crops near the river. Where it hasn't rained for days, fields are still too wet to plant because of seepage water pushed up to the surface. Irrigation wells are backflowing into fields. Thousands of acres may go unplanted this year because of the high water.
I know in Tensile we've got land across the levee, and the guys I've talked to that farm it don't even really envision planting it this year.
In Point Capee Parish, the river has captured an area that typically grows more than 4,000 acres of crops. Because of the high water, farming practices have to be altered, and planted crops are beginning to show some signs of stress.
The roots are starting to rot. We're starting to see symptoms of that. Any of the cane that is along the river, any kind of fertilizer application had to be flown over. And in a lot of fields just won't be able to be planted this year.
Another slug of water is coming down the river, and officials are planning on opening the Morganza Spillway. When opened, thousands more acres of cropland and pastures will be inundated, leading to additional hardships for farmers. If the water gets off quickly and the land dries, some farmers may try to plant again.
We're reaching kind of that threshold where we'll see decreased yields if they are able to get it in. And, you know, it's an unfortunate situation for the farmers because they have to tell the landowners that they're not going to be able to get a crop in this year.
The high water has also displaced wildlife.
Any wildlife that was across the levee is now over on our side, and they're hurting crops tremendously.
Forecasts for most river gauges in Louisiana call for the Mississippi to remain above flood stage through June. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
And in several cases, the rainstorms in the Midwest and Plains have turned severe. A vicious storm tore through the Kansas City area, spawning tornadoes that downed trees and power lines, damaging homes, farms, and injuring at least a dozen people. The storms in Kansas City were the 12th straight day that at least 8 tornadoes were reported to the National Weather Service. Tyne Morgan joins us from the Arkansas River near Little Rock. Tyne, the severe weather just adding more rain to an already oversoaked area.
Yeah, Clinton, reports say that tornado was a mile wide and stayed on the ground for nearly 2 hours. One of our own Farm Journal co-workers, Taylor Leach, their family farm in Linwood, Kansas, was destroyed. Here's one picture of the aftermath, and this Google Maps photo shows the farm before. Barns were ripped to shreds. The parlor and freestall barn are now gone. Several cows were injured, and the ones not being injured are actually being located in neighboring farms. But the good news is no one was hurt. But as you said, Clinton, the storm, it came with more rain. Some areas seeing as much as 5 inches, which just adds to the planting pain that many are seeing right now. This map here shows just how bad the situation is. Look at all the purple, red, and orange dots on this map. Those are the river gauges that are at moderate or even major flood stage. And Clinton, as you mentioned, that rain just adding to the pain. I mean, I'm in Arkansas right now in front of the Arkansas River, and as you can see, this is just really swollen. And as those rivers are swollen, that means that the tributaries and all the creeks that normally run into those rivers are also backed up, flooding and suffocating farm fields. So the water doesn't even have to top the levee in order for farm fields to be underwater right now. And a lot of these acres are facing that. And as now farmers are weighing the options and weighing the risks of planting or not planting this year, ag lenders that I talk to say that the latest round of MFP payments and not knowing exactly what the amounts are going to be tied to, that's just adding to confusion right now for producers. Clinton?
Another state facing planting delays, Indiana. AgDay's Betsy Gibbon talked on Facebook Live with a producer in northern Indiana who says he's been farming for 65 years and he's never seen it this slow. You can watch Betsy's interview and find out more about what many in the Midwest are calling No Plant 19 by checking out AgDay's Facebook page. But there is a bit of good news to report when it comes to other crops, specifically cotton. The latest crop progress report from USDA showing 57% of the cotton crop is planted. That's just 1% behind the 5-year average. California doing very well with almost all of the crop planted. Peanuts also doing well right now. 79% of that crop is planted, slightly ahead of the 5-year average. Soybean markets getting a weather bump this week, but the fundamentals remain challenging in 2019. We'll take a closer look coming up in analysis, and later, an end-of-year tradition, driving the family tractor to school today in the country.
Closed captioning is brought to you by BASF. Grow smart with BASF. We create chemistry.
Corn lost some steam in the weather rally, but soybeans still going strong. Here's an update from the CME.
We have seen a significant increase in producer selling on this rally. You know, 2-3 weeks ago, guys were really hoping to see better prices. Well, we've got that in a hurry, so guys are taking advantage of that. However, with the situation that we have going on, if we can't plant this corn acreage, and even if we do, you really question the yields, you might want to be looking at reownership strategies, ways to recapture your upside potential, and I think guys are really looking at that as well. If not, I really want guys to hold on to some bushels to see what happens here during this growing season, because given the situation, we could see corn $5 or north of that. So have that in mind. We do need to be vigilant about making our sales, and guys have been good about doing that. But at the same time, we want to have that opportunity as well, because after the last few years of really struggling with low corn prices, it'd be nice to capitalize on some better prices here. So, yep, we've seen it. We'll see what happens going forward.
We're joined by Jim McCormick, agmarket.net. Jim, you guys have been kind of looking at the soybean balance sheet. And before we get into what's on these numbers, it's a different year and a tough year for beans.
Right now, plain and simple, it's going to be a tough year. I mean, we've been manipulating this spreadsheet, plain and simple. Unless we have a really hard yield disaster, it's going to be a tough year for beans for the producer out there. They just got to realize that this trade war has taken a hit. Without China buying beans, they were the world's biggest consumer. They were our biggest buyer of beans. With them really pushing back hard because this trade war intensifies, it is really going to hurt us. There is some people out there that believe that China may not buy one bean at all this year.
Wow.
As this trade war just gets down to brass knuckles and intensifies. So hopefully it gets done. But the fact of the matter is the balance sheet looks tough.
Yeah, and you layer in African swine fever, and it cuts the amount of beans that they need already.
Well, that's it. I mean, they've done a lot of, they've adjusted some of their feed from a 20% meal ration down to 10, 11. That affected demand in this swine flu. They've officially said it's around 24% herd reduction. The fact of the matter is you've heard a lot of people talk 35, 40, 50. We don't know, but the odds are it's a lot worse than what it is because they really don't want to start a food panic there.
Right, absolutely. But if we look at the numbers on soybeans and you guys are running some calculations, what's your best guess? I mean, it's still a tough story.
I mean, right now it's a tough story. The USDA right now is using about an 84.6 million acres of planted acres. It may go up a little bit. You might see this actually shift higher as the producers can't get corn in. Then they got to make that economic decision. Do I want to prevent plant corn or plant beans?
Right.
But we're working right now, sticking with about an 84.6 with a trend yield of 50. That's going to push your carry out closer to a little over a billion bushels right now without China. So China is going to be the key. If we do get a shift, though, I mean, it's not, the weather will key, just like the corn market. If we lose 3-4 bushels off the beans, it'll definitely tighten up this balance sheet. But the fact of the matter is, beans look like rally should be sold as far as we can tell at this point.
Okay, tough market this year for soybeans. We'll continue to watch it. Thank you, Jim. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
To contact Jim McCormick at Ag Market, call 844-4AG-MARKET or visit their website at www.agmarket.net. Join Andrew McCrae for Farming the Countryside, a farmer-focused podcast that is all about production agriculture. Farming the Countryside is available wherever you listen to your favorite podcast and is brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, the world's largest provider of crop inputs and services.
Welcome back to Ag Day. Meteorologist Cindy Clausen here looking at the weather. And Cindy, we have another system kind of working through the heart of the Corn Belt here.
Yeah, and this is kind of the last of that stubborn front that was just kind of up and down and up and down and up and down. We're finally going to see that moving away. And that high pressure moves into the plain states. And that's what gives at least a lot of folks a couple of days of relief. Let's take a look. Notice we have a low pressure system that's moving through the Corn Belt over towards the Great Lakes area, so we'll see showers and thunderstorms all along this front stretching back into Texas, and they're going to stay in Texas for a couple of days as that front really doesn't make a whole lot of movement there. But in the eastern part of the country, that low does move to the east. High pressure starts to settle in. This is our RPM model, so the rapid precision mesoscale model, we're looking at a secondary front that's now coming down into the Great Lakes, and there's the front that's going to come into the plains that will affect us as we get into the weekend. So notice that our model doesn't show everybody completely dry in the plains, but a lot of folks at least get a day or two with some sunshine and just a day or two away from the rain, and that will definitely be nice. As we head through the Friday, we're going to be seeing that low pressure system coming into the Great Lakes area, and we'll start to see some showers and maybe some thunderstorms pulling up along that front. We do continue to see some unsettled weather in the west. Here's our precipitation estimate, and yeah, it's been a lot. And northeastern Texas, in through Arkansas, Oklahoma, and right on through into the mid-Atlantic states. As we add on the next 24 hours, we're going to add heavier rain, especially into the central and southern parts of Texas, and again, all the way over towards the mid-Atlantic states. So we're not done with that system yet, but this is actually somewhat promising for parts of the plains states. Temperatures still really hot in the southeastern United States, still dealing with a lot of 90s there, and we're seeing more normal temperatures in a lot of the Corn Belt, but we do have some warm pockets as well where we're seeing some 80s there. Into the overnight hours we go, and we'll see those temperatures still really mild, very muggy in the southeastern United States. The cooler temperatures kind of in the northwest where we see 40s and 50s, and in the far northeast as well, and into the Great Lakes. For tomorrow, we're going to be seeing still some 80s and 90s in a lot of the southeastern part of the country, and we warm it up a little bit, some 70s and 80s in the nation's midsection, and 60s out in the west. As far as that jet stream, we still have a bit of a trough in the west, so some unsettled weather there, the cooler air kind of in the northeast, but for the most part staying up to the north. You got a trough though that's going to bring some cooler temperatures as we get into early next week. Looks like perhaps another trough bringing some stormy weather into the west as we get into the latter part of next week. That's a look at your national forecast. Now let's check out the weather where you live. Carlin, Nevada, showers, maybe a thunderstorm for you today with a high of 70 degrees. Wetumpka, Oklahoma, mostly sunny, a high of 80 degrees. And Sykesville, Pennsylvania, showers and thunderstorms likely, high of 69.
All the rain also putting pressure on the cattle market. What it could mean for feed prices next.
Ag Day, brought to you by new Delaro fungicide for corn and soybeans. Achieve personal best yields. Drover's Report is sponsored by Corteva Agriscience, Agriculture Division of Dow DuPont, your partner in range and pasture productivity.
Some surprises in the latest cattle on feed report. The on-feed number was a record for May at 11.8 million head. That's 2% higher than a year ago. Now, analysts feared large April placements would target a large number of cattle for the fall market.
Placements were 9% higher than last year, but well short of analyst estimates of 13% higher. And May placements have also slowed by the exceptionally wet weather. Those numbers provide some bullish suggestions for the fall fed cattle market.
The bearish news for livestock producers is due to extreme uncertainty in the corn and soybean markets. Grain prices have jumped up higher in the past week, and now cattle and hog producers may need to pencil in higher feed costs for this year and next. Coming up, a high school tradition that never seems to grow old in our farming communities. That special day when you get to drive the tractor to school. We'll take you to one town where it turns into a big celebration next.
In the Country is powered by Kawasaki. Let the good times roll.
It's a great way to celebrate the final days of school, and it's become a tradition in Foley, Minnesota, northeast of St. Cloud. Alex Swikowski of WJON takes us to Tractor Day at Foley High School as the parade rolled in.
A convoy of tractors filled the Foley High School parking lot as students celebrated their final days of school. Tractor Day is a huge deal not only for the students, but the community who gathered to watch the tractor parade go down the street. Foley senior Christian Halverson says plans for Tractor Day begin very early.
I got the first text about Tractor Day on day one of school, so it's every year.
The routine is the same as the seniors meet up at Gilman Park before the tractors hit the streets on their way to school. Halverson says they usually get a wide variety of tractors.
People like to always one-up somebody else, it seems like. So, yeah, then we know what we're meeting up with at the ballpark when we meet in Gilman, and yeah, it's always a little bit different variety.
Driving tractors to school is not an uncommon thing in central Minnesota, and Halverson says he hopes the longtime tradition continues.
For sure, I hope everybody gets a chance to do this. I mean, it's Tractor Day. It's only a couple of schools do it, and we do it the best, if you ask me.
The morning festivities ended with a friendly water balloon fight before students made their way inside to begin class.
And that's all the time we have this morning. Sure glad you tuned in, spend part of your day with us. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.